Chapter 231. Sorry, I will not choose either. He was not interested in the low-ranked defensive weapon that was covered in sticky meat. Yi-chan let it fall on the ground, making a crisp sound. He slowly turned his body around, facing the opponent. I promise you, you will die a horrible death. The old lady was called Wang Fong, one of the top 2 warriors of the Wang family. Her power was only below the leader of the family, who was also her brother. For all these years, besides the big things, the leader of the family was in charge of everything else, which created her arrogant personality. People on the Snake Island were even more afraid of her than the leader of the Wang family. Right then, hearing her, her face twisted instantly, and the 3-headed snake shadow behind her started to hiss loudly. Shoo! Her body disappeared, and Wang Fong appeared in front of Yi-chan with an extremely shocking speed, throwing out a palm attack. So fast! Even faster than Wu Liangyu. His nerves had not gotten used to this kind of speed yet, so Yi-chan threw out his 5-mountain godly fist art instinctively. All of a sudden, a brutal black palm power shot out of Wang Fong's palm, spreading out in a small fan shape, cutting off layers of the ground. Being in the center of the explosion, Yi-chan had to back out for dozens of steps before he could completely cancel out the power. Die! After blowing away Yi-chan with one palm attack, Wang Fong had the thought that Yi-chan was only a so-so. Her aura burned like fire as she threw out a palm attack that was even more powerful than before, shaking the entire air. Chin! There was a dazzling sword light shining, and the sharp sword will spread out at an extremely fast speed, cutting through the void. In this silent void, the clearly visible half-moon sword chi shattered the piece, as if it had shattered a mirror, and flew out with an unstoppable momentum. Pooh! The palm power had been torn apart, and the sword chi had been shattered as well. Sword artist! Wang Fong frowned. In her mind, only people with sword intent could be called sword artists. Obviously, Yi-chan was one of them. It's a pity that another swordsman is going to die today. Wang Fong sneered. In front of absolute power, the so-called sword intent was just a joke. Yi-chan's potential had strengthened her determination to kill him. Without the slightest hesitation, Wang Fong operated her Zhan Qi. Both of her hands turned into countless phantoms and clapped in the air. One after another, black palm power spread out in a fan shape, almost covering half of the street. To be exact, it covered the area hundreds of meters in front of her, because in the process the street was rapidly collapsing. Sky-shattering clouds. Facing that wave of palm power, Yi-chan lifted up his Star Scar sword and threw out a sword attack. Boom! The palm force split apart. When the sword struck out, it was as though there was a tall mountain erected in front of it, an eternal reef unmoving. Break! Following the tide-like palm power, Wang Fong flew over and slammed her palm on the intangible sword chi. The mountain was broken and the reef was crushed. This old lady is indeed powerful. She is definitely not a normal peak-level late-clasping Yuan realm warrior. The sword momentum collapsed, and Yi-chan struck out with his sword again. Wang Fong was like a hot knife cutting through butter. She threw out one palm attack after another. The 3-headed snake shadow behind her seemed to have added endless power to her. Separate. Leaving a Zhan Qi shadow where he was standing, Yi-chan turned his feet and cut to the right side of Wang Fong. He threw out a sword attack, the sword light blurring. Ting! The lone peak kill, which had always been successful, had been blocked out. It was the 3-headed snake shadow behind Wang Fong's back. One of the snake heads reached down and blocked out that sword attack of Yi-chan's. The Star Scar sword stabbed in 3 inches, and Yi-chan immediately backed out. The next second, the ground started to shake intensely. The 3-headed snake shadow's tail fell from the sky, rocks flying everywhere. Wang Fong turned her body and said with a hideous look, "Has no one told you that among warriors at the same level, my brother and I are unbeatable?" Not necessarily. The 12th movement combination. His body looked like he was backing out, but he was actually moving forward. Yi-chan dodged the attack of the 3-headed snake shadow. The Star Scar sword shone with a dark starlight as it stabbed towards his opponent's body, ignoring the distance between them. One had to admit that the 3-headed snake shadow was way too powerful. Before Wang Fong could react, it had reacted first. One of its heads bumped onto the Star Scar sword. Swoosh! The Star Scar sword that had lost its aim did not manage to pierce into Wang Fong's vital organs. It landed on her shoulder, and the sword chi went through, leaving a deep sword hole on the ground behind her. What? Wang Feng looked at her wounded shoulder in disbelief. I wonder if you can dodge the next sword attack. His body flipped in the air. Yichun landed on a broken wall, looking down from above. Don't get carried away. You will not be able to break through my defense again. Wang Feng bit on her teeth. With both of her hands up and down, she pushed out a beam of black light wave towards Yichun. The attacking range of the light wave was huge, and it was accompanied by a hint of soul pressure. The sword intent had cut through the pressure on the soul. Yichun's toes touched the broken wall and shot into the sky. 6 Zhanqi shadows appeared in the air, attacking Wang Feng from different angles. This is the real body. The 3-headed snake shadow had its reaction range. Within this range, without Wang Feng's control, it could automatically defend and attack. Seeing through the real body, its long tail swung over. It is useless even if you see through it. Lone peak kill. Yichun was already hiding in the Zhanqi shadows. When the tail swung over, his real body jumped out, brushing past the 3-headed snake shadow's tail and stabbing into Wang Feng's shoulder. It was not that he did not want to hit her vital organs, but the 3-headed snake shadow's reaction was way too fast, and there were enough snake heads. 2 snake heads attacked together, which made Yichun deviate a little bit. His killing sword attack had turned into a full power attack. Blood splashed out, and Wang Feng almost fainted from anger. She threw out both of her palms crazily, and the black palm power spread out like crazy. Shoo! 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 Changing his back route a couple of times, Yichun managed to back out to a safe distance. His eyebrows slightly frowned. That 3-headed snake shadow did not disappear, so it would be very hard for him to kill her. It might even be impossible. Plus, the reason why he was able to get the upper hand was because he had learned the lone peak kill again. He had combined the 12th movement into it, which increased his power and speed drastically. Otherwise, it would still be unknown if he could break through her defense. No wonder he dares to call himself invincible within the same realm. It is not just a rumor. Right now I have almost figured out one thing. Behind her back was a 3-headed snake shadow, while Wang's snake had a 5-headed snake tattoo on his body. If he were to inherit the power, then he would have activated the 5-headed snake tattoo and created a horrifying 5-headed snake shadow. If the 3-headed snake shadow was already this powerful, then the 5-headed snake shadow would be even more powerful. This should be the reason why the top management of the Wang family had sent a disciple from a branch family to inherit the power. They had their eyes on Wang Snake's potential. Yichun had a clear mind. Although he did not know what kind of power Wang Snake was going to inherit, he had already figured out the form of the power. Once Wang Snake succeeded in inheriting the power and activated the 5-headed snake shadow, he might actually become an invincible warrior within the same realm. All of a sudden, the mysteriousness of the Wang family had caught Yichun's interest. It was not something that a rank 9 family should have. Black snake shadow chasing wave. Yichun frequently dodged the attacks, which had aroused Wang Feng's anger. She took a deep breath and a black light appeared on her body. At the same time, one of the 3-headed snake shadow disappeared. As if the power of the snake head had all merged into her body. Along with the increase of her Zhanqi, Wang Feng used up all of her fist power and threw out a palm attack towards Yichun. Crack! The ground was cracking, and the chi power was like a snake. Yichun realized that his speed was almost being overtaken by the snake-shaped chi power. He hurried to perform the ultimate skill of the separating shadow flying arch shadow explosion. All of a sudden hundreds of human shadows exploded like a blooming daffodil, extremely fast. Puff 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 puff. The snake-shaped chi power quickly traveled among the human shadows, destroying them one after another. After about half of the human shadows had been destroyed, it finally scattered and exploded, destroying another 10 human shadows. After narrowly avoiding the explosion, Yichun did not stop and shot towards Wang Feng. On the way, Yichun sensed the danger and decided to back out. Within a couple of blinks of an eye, a chi that was similar to Wang Feng, but much more powerful than her, covered the entire sky. The onlookers cried out in surprise. It is the leader of the Wang family, Wang Heng. He finally showed up. The third lady of the Wang family is in danger, and the leader of the Wang family did not show up. It would be unreasonable. But that brat is so powerful. He had wounded the third lady of the Wang family twice in a row. This has never happened before. Look, that brat backed out. Did he know that the leader of the Wang family would show up? In a one-on-one battle, Yichun would not back out. Even if he could not win, he could still run. After all, there were no astral-reaching realm warriors in the Wang family, and they would not be able to stop him. However, Wang Feng was already powerful enough, and with an even more powerful warrior, it would be unwise for him to stay. His body flashed, and Yichun disappeared from everyone's sight. Hu! A huge wind blew, and a human figure landed in front of Wang Feng. It was an elder in his 70s. What was surprising was that there was also a shadow behind the old man. But this shadow was not a three-headed snake, but a four-headed snake. Its body was even bigger than the three-headed snake behind Wang Feng, and its aura was even more intense. The moment he landed, the surrounding air became still, and there were no ripples. Feng, what is wrong with you? How did you turn this place into this? The elder was not happy. Wang Feng said angrily, that brat had killed our fourth brother. I will skin him alive. Our fourth brother has been killed? What is going on? The elder had never liked this fourth brother of his. Not only did he protect Wang Ping, but he also dared to go against him. Did he not know that he was doing this for the Wang family? Only with a high enough density of the bloodline would they be able to produce more powerful warriors. The so-called main family and branch family would be too stupid. More importantly, once the density of the bloodline reached the five-headed snake level, it would be possible to evolve into a six-headed snake bloodline. One six-headed snake bloodline would be more valuable than 10 four-headed ones. It was also the reason why he had given up on his eldest grandson and picked a member of the branch family. If the Wang family wanted to rise again and recover its former glory, they could not be too shallow. Of course, his fourth brother was still his fourth brother. Now that he had been killed, the elder would not be able to just sit back and do nothing. The night was getting darker, and the moonlight was getting dimmer. On an uninhabited island in the Star Regional Lake, Yichun had found a suitable place for training. Taking out the sword-shaped plant and the Battle Emperor's sword from his storage ring, Yichun thought to himself, my sword intent has reached 50% for a long time, and it has already stabilized. It is time to use you guys. Chapter 232. The fourth layer of the Snake Island. In the hall of the villa. Brother, you are the only one on the Snake Island who can kill that brat. You have to help fourth brother. Wang Feng said hurriedly. Wang Heng felt helpless and angry at the same time. I have already heard about what happened to our fourth brother. I have to say he was looking for death himself. He tried to assassinate someone else for no reason. Facing this kind of thing, any clasping Yuan realm warrior would be furious. But since he had killed our fourth brother, I can't just sit back and do nothing. Otherwise, how would people from the Snake Island think of our Wang family? Under Wang Heng's strict interrogation, Wang Ping told everything that had happened. Of course, he hid the relationship between Yichun and Wang Shi. He said that it was purely because Yichun was suspicious, so the fourth master went to investigate. Although Wang Heng was old, his intelligence hadn't deteriorated. He could tell the truth with just one glance. After locking Wang Ping up, he sent people to investigate the cause and effect. They found out that Wang Shi was sent to the Snake Island by Yichun. Because of this, Wang Ping and his fourth brother planned to kill him secretly. However, they didn't expect that Yichun's power was beyond their expectation. Instead, his fourth brother died. Wang Feng felt it was unfair and said, Big brother, what are you going to do? Wang Heng said, this matter is fourth brother's fault. Just break one of his arms. What? Only one of his arms? Didn't fourth brother die for nothing? Wang Feng screamed, as if she couldn't believe Wang Heng's decision. Wang Heng yelled, if it wasn't for you blindly protecting them, fourth brother wouldn't have died. Speaking of which, you have to bear the greatest responsibility. Your punishment is to be confined for a year, and you are not allowed to manage the family's affairs. Wang Feng was stunned. Wang Heng rarely got angry at her, and even if he did, it would not be so obvious. Right now, under the pressure of the opponent's aura, she could not even control the power of her bloodline. That was a pressure that came from the soul. ignoring the difference in power between both sides. She swallowed the words that she was about to say. Wang Heng did not look at her anymore. He ordered people to track Yichun. As long as he was still around the Snake Island, he would definitely be found. If he could not be found, it meant that he had left, and there was nothing he could do. After thinking for a while, Wang Heng said, "Track down this person. Do not act rashly. Inform me immediately." Yes. The elders in charge of this matter received the order and left. The uninhabited island was no more than 10 miles in circumference, and there was not even a blade of grass growing on it. What was surprising was that in the southeastern region of the island, there was a small valley. Above the valley there was a waterfall that flowed down, pouring into the pool below with loud rumbling sounds. Yichun stood motionless on the flat ground in the valley, looking at the opposite rock wall. This stone wall was different from ordinary stone walls because there was a sword mark on it. The sword mark was 9 feet long, narrow and sharp, filled with powerful sword intent. This sword intent seemed to be able to pierce through one's heart and slay one's soul, wanting to break out of the wall. The sword intent had been there for a long time. It had not dissipated since the night before yesterday. Moreover, because of the sword intent, the area where the sword mark was made was particularly hard. Normally, Yichun could poke a hole in it with a light finger, but now he could only leave a shallow mark. And this sword mark was indeed made by the Battle Emperor's sword. When the sword-shaped plant got close to the Battle Emperor's sword, the sword intent inside the plant immediately merged into the sword. Holding the sword in his hand, Yichun's sword intent exploded. He threw out a sword attack onto the rock wall, leaving a sword intent that had been there for a long time. As the sun passed the middle of the sky, Yichun suddenly woke up. What a powerful sword intent! It made me sink into it, unable to pull myself out. I had completely forgotten about the time. Yichun mumbled to himself. As Yichun mumbled to himself, the sword intent on the sword mark disappeared in the wind. A bit of sword intent can only last for 2 days. It is completely incomparable to the 500 years old sword intent in the natural moat gorge. But in comparison, a bit of sword intent would be better. The sword intent in the gorge is way too aggressive. It could even kill an astral-reaching realm warrior's life force. Even if I go there, it would not be a good result. If the sword intent is completed, I could go there and find the last piece of the Battle Emperor's sword. Although he could not pull himself out, once there was danger, Yichun would still be able to force himself to wake up. Just then he had sensed that the sword intent was about to disappear, so he woke up automatically. As for the time, it had indeed passed very fast for him, since it was the Battle Emperor's sword intent. He was more or less addicted to it. Sensing the level of his sword intent, Yichun smiled. He had already reached 60% sword intent. One sword-shaped plant had helped him learn 10% of the sword intent, which seemed to be more than enough. He was not that far away from 70% sword intent. He wondered if the second sword-shaped plant could help him reach 70%, or even 80%, or even close. With 80% sword intent, his attacking power would increase drastically, reaching a level that even he himself would not be able to control. It would get harder and harder to learn the sword intent, and the further one progressed, the more the attacking power would be. Back in the auction house in the Gold Tripod City, that astral-reaching realm warrior had unintentionally released his sword intent. It should not have reached completion yet, but that chilling sharp intent could cover the whole place, and it could kill a clasping Yuan realm warrior's life force and soul at any moment. Taking out the second sword-shaped plant, Yichun did not need to control it himself. A bit of sword intent shot out of it automatically, merging with the broken Battle Emperor's sword. Cut! The sword intent shot out again as Yichun threw out a sword attack onto the rock wall. Swoosh! A new sword mark appeared, and the horrifying sword intent spread out, lingering for a long time. Putting away the Battle Emperor's sword, Yichun looked at the sword mark. His sword intent poured out, clashing with the sword intent on the sword mark, trying to understand the mysteries within. The sun was setting and the sun was rising. Time was flying fast. Hundreds of miles away from the uninhabited island, 2 silhouettes flew over. Our family warriors had sensed the intense sword intent outside of this island. It should be here. Wang Heng said to Wang Feng, who was standing right next to him. Wang Feng said with a cruel voice, Let's see where he can run this time. Wang Heng warned, you just stand aside and watch. Do not do anything on your own. Let me make all the decisions. He was not planning to let Wang Feng come, but because of her begging, he reluctantly agreed. The condition was that she could only be a bystander and not make any decisions. I know. Wang Feng really wanted to see Yi Chen's miserable face after losing one of his arms. For most people, losing an arm was a very painful thing. It was not just the physical pain but the pain of losing confidence in the future. Having a broken body would have a huge impact on one's future growth. Wang Heng sighed. Losing an arm was too much after all. Let's see how it goes. If Yi Chen was not what he had imagined, then just teaching him a lesson would be enough. He might not necessarily lose an arm. Otherwise, it would be better to just kill him. He could imagine what kind of revenge he would get if he lost an arm. The two of them moved extremely fast. Soon they arrived at the uninhabited island. Woo! All of a sudden a horrifying sword intent shot out into the sky, spreading out in all directions. The air seemed to be vibrating as if it was crying. 70% sword intent. Inside the valley, Yi Chen's happy voice could be heard. Chapter 233. As his sword intent reached 70%, Yi Chen could vaguely sense that the sword intent, which was originally intangible, was starting to materialize, turning from intangible to tangible. Of course, with his powerful soul power, he could only sense it a little bit, and could not observe the sword intent at all. Unfortunately, the effect of the Battle King's sword intent in the sword-shaped plant had been weakening. If the first one had brought his sword intent from 50% to 60%, then the second one had only helped him reach 70%. Right then, even with the third one, it would not be possible for him to make another breakthrough. At most, he would only be able to go a little further on the 70% sword intent. However, the 70% sword intent was more than enough. Yi Chen had still underestimated the power of the sword intent. The effect of the 70% sword intent was not only increasing the attacking power of his sword art. It had also made Yi Chen's mind more clear. Some of the things that he had been thinking about before had suddenly become clear the moment his sword intent reached 70%. For example, his lone peak kill, which had naturally been infused with the 13th movement, had reached completion. The sky-shattering clouds had also perfectly infused with the third movement, increasing its power to the next level. All in all, the 70% sword intent had directly increased the attacking power by 30%, and indirectly increased the attacking power by 20%. Altogether it was 50%, which was a horrifying increase. Cut! Taking out his star scar sword, Yi Chen's sword intent exploded, turning into a sky-covering blue light as he threw out a sword attack. Crack! The valley had been split in two. The gap was perfectly straight and smooth, showing its sharpness. What was different from before was that Yi Chen could clearly feel the sword intent stopping at the gap for a couple of breaths. Normally, his sword intent would not be able to stop for even a second. Alright. Studying the Battle King's sword intent had allowed me to learn a little bit of immortality. Although it was only a little bit, it was something that other sword artists could not compete with. Just by studying the sword-shaped plant, it was basically impossible to learn the immortality. But Yi Chen had the broken Battle King's sword, which had been around for 500 years, and still had a little bit of the Battle King's sword intent. Yeah, someone is here. Through the gap, Yi Chen saw two human figures 10 miles away. Hurry! This person's sword intent is indeed horrifying. It would be hard to find a worthy opponent under the astral reaching realm. Wang Heng was shocked. He was the leader of the Wang family, and he had the four-headed snake's bloodline power. But he had never claimed to be invincible among his peers. He knew very well that there were some extremely low-key clasping Yuan realm warriors in the South Rudra region who could beat or even kill him, not to mention the whole True Spirit continent or the vast ocean around it. The world was far too big. The so-called invincibility of the same rank could only be produced within a certain range. If anyone dared to claim that they were invincible among the same rank martial artists in the world, then they had lost their minds. Wang Feng opened her mouth wide and didn't know what to say. She didn't wake up until Wang Heng shouted. She turned around in a panic and followed Wang Heng. Whoosh! The two of them were both peak-level late-clasping Yuan realm martial artists, and they also had the bloodline power. Therefore, their speed was unbelievably fast. Within a blink of an eye, they had already traveled nearly 1 mile. You sure run fast. Yichun sneered, but he did not plan to chase after them. Right now, it would only take him one sword attack to kill Wang Feng. Killing Wang Heng would probably take more effort, but it would not be too hard. However, if he killed the two of them, the Wang family would collapse for sure, which would not be a good thing for Wang's snake, who was about to inherit the bloodline power of the Wang family. For threats, Yichun would not show any mercy. For example, Yuan Zonghua, he was not that powerful, but the Sky Eagle castle behind him was very powerful. If he did not kill him, there would be trouble in the future. The Wang family was only a rank 9 family, and there was not even one astral-reaching realm warrior in the family. So the threat to Yichun was very small. Of course, all of this was under the premise that the Wang family knew what was good for them. Otherwise, they would have to start a massacre. It has been 4 days. I wonder if Zhou has any news about the Blood Sun flower. Increasing his sword intent did not mean that he could let go of his attacking power. With the power to perform his minor blood demon body separating great art, Yichen's attacking power could still increase to a horrifying level if he were to risk his life. Performing his separating shadow flying art, Yichun flashed and flew out towards the Snake Island. In the Wang family's lobby, what? He has caught up to the Snake Island? Wang Heng's expression changed drastically as he forced a smile. Wang Feng did not have that arrogant attitude from before. She bit on her teeth and said, "If he comes to the Wang family for revenge, I will fight with him. I am the one who caused all of this." Wang Heng sat down dejectedly. "What do you have to fight with him? I have told you all the time. There is always someone more powerful than you. Do not think that with the power of the bloodline, you can look down on all the warriors at the same level. Now you know the consequences. Before, I had asked people to find disciples with the highest purity of the bloodline to inherit the power. It was all for the Wang family to become more powerful and regain the glory of the past. But you just had to go against me, thinking that the disciples from the branch family do not have the right to do so. You have to know one thing. In this true spirit continent, only the powerful are respected. The so-called orthodox families are only a group of ants in the eyes of the powerful ones. They can be destroyed with a flick of their fingers." Wang Feng did not say anything. Right then a manager walked in. Leader, he did not come up. Instead, he stayed in the restaurant. Stayed in the restaurant. Wang Heng froze for a second, then a happy expression appeared on his face. He thought that there might be a chance. He hurried to yell, "Inform everyone in the Wang family. No one is allowed to disturb him. Whoever dares to do so, kill them." "Yes, sir." On the second floor of the restaurant, the waiter and the shopkeeper were trembling, not daring to move a muscle. Especially the waiter who had brought the food and wine to Yichun. He had a look of fear on his face. Both of his knees softened as he kneeled on the ground, stuttering, "Young warrior, please don't kill me." "I had no choice." Yichun waved his hand, and the waiter could not help but stand up. He said, "It is none of your business. Go and prepare some food for me." All right. The waiter and the manager were relieved. They hurried downstairs to prepare the food. Taking a sip of the tea, Yichun thought to himself, "I was not here for the past few days, and Uncle Zhou could not find me. I wonder if I should go to the Wang family and ask." Just as Yichun was about to leave, he suddenly saw Uncle Zhou from the window. He laughed, "Uncle Zhou, over here. Young warrior Yi." Uncle Zhou did not come in from the front door. He flew straight up the stairs and landed in front of Yichun. He took out 3 blood sunflowers from his storage ring. Each of them was more than 200 years old, and one of them was even 400 years old. Almost half of it was dyed red. Uncle Zhou said apologetically, "I don't know if 3 are enough. Master Snake and I have just arrived at the main house, so we could only get 3 blood sunflowers." He did not know about the news in the Wang family, so he did not know that Yichun had battled with the 3rd grandaunt of the Wang family, and even killed the 4th master of the Wang family. Yichun frowned. To be honest, these 3 blood sunflowers seemed to be 800 years old, but it did not mean that they could be compared with one 800 years old blood sunflower. Under normal circumstances, 10 400 years old blood sunflowers might not even be able to compare with one 800 years old blood sunflower, not to mention 1,000 years old blood sunflower. But he also knew that Uncle Zhou's power was limited. To be able to bring him 3 blood sunflowers was already his best. It seems like I still have to go to the Wang family, at least collect some interest and get a few thousand-years-old blood sunflowers. A thought flashed through Yi Chen's mind. Chapter 234. Out of Yi Chen's expectation, when he entered the Wang family's villa, he was not stopped at all. In front of the majestic hall, Yi Chen stood there. Wang Heng was smiling, but he was actually smiling bitterly as he walked out. I am the leader of the Wang family, Wang Heng. May I know your surname? My surname is Yi. Yi Chen said lightly. Warrior Yi, my 4th brother tried to assassinate you, and it was his fault. You killed him, so we are even. Next, my 3rd sister tried to kill you indiscriminately, and I am willing to make up for this sin. Yi Chen smiled meaningfully. I seem to remember that you and your sister went to a nameless island before. Is that true? Ahem. Wang Heng looked embarrassed. That is true. Forget it. Honest people don't beat around the bush. Wang Snake and Uncle Zhou entered your Wang family, so they are considered part of the Wang family. I don't want to turn against them, and it will be hard to talk to them in the future. However, it is a fact that your sister wanted to kill me. Up until now, basically all the people who wanted to kill me are dead. I wonder if the Wang family can protect your sister? Wang Heng said honestly, no. The scariest part of the sword intent was not only in its attacking power, but also in its invisible killing power. Killing nothingness was not just an empty phrase, but it really existed. When the sword intent was not deep enough, it could kill the nothingness of a person, such as distracting thoughts and inner demons. When the sword intent reached a very high level, it could kill the nothingness of others. When it was for good, it could kill the distracting thoughts and inner demons of others to aid in their training. When it was for evil, it could kill the life and soul of others. No matter how powerful you were, if your spirit and willpower were not strong enough, you would not be able to stop the sword intent. Of course, Yi Chen obviously had not reached such a horrifying level. However, even if he could not kill the opponent's life and soul, he should be able to injure their spirit. Therefore, those who did not have strong willpower would not be able to withstand it. Yi Chen did not linger on this topic, so he said directly, I need the blood sunflowers. The higher the temperature, the better, and the more you can have. Blood sunflower? Wang Heng let out a sigh of relief. He had thought that Yi Chen was going to ask for something difficult, and had already mentally prepared himself. He did not expect it to be for the blood sunflower. The blood sunflower might be a rare spirit flower in the outside world, but to the Wang clan it was not rare at all. Because of their constitution, the Wang clan had been growing the blood sunflower for generations. Wang Heng carefully said, the blood sunflower is extremely difficult to cultivate. Most of them die after 500 years, and those that can grow to 800 years are 1 in 10,000. Those that can grow to 1,000 years are even rarer. Currently, there are 3,000-year blood sunflowers in the flower garden. If you don't mind, young hero, you can come with me to the flower garden. All right. Regarding Wang Heng's words, Yi Chen understood. Humans had lives and so did plants. It was not like all the blood sunflowers could grow to 1,000-years-old blood sunflower. If that were the case, the true spirit continent was so vast, and there were so many unexplored places, there would be thousands or even tens of thousands of years old spirit plants and flowers everywhere. This was not something that could be forced. The Wang family's flower garden was at the back of the villa. It was dozens of miles wide, and as far as the eye could see, it was filled with all sorts of colors. The most eye-catching one was naturally the flower garden in the middle, which was filled with blood sunflowers. Arriving in front of the flower garden, Yi Chen scanned it with his soul power, and immediately found dozens of 800-years-old blood sunflowers. Without saying a word, he made a grabbing motion in the air, and the dozens of blood sunflowers flew out of the ground and landed on Yi Chen's hand. Wang Heng took out dozens of jade boxes from his storage ring and handed them to Yi Chen. These are specially made to store the blood sunflowers. They can store their yuan qi and prolong their life. Thanks. Yi Chen did not hesitate as he put the blood sunflowers into the box one by one, closed it, and continued his search. The blood sunflower garden took up 1/3 of the whole garden, with a length and width of 6 to 7 miles. 6 to 7 miles might only take a powerful clasping Yuan realm warrior 10 blinks of an eye to cover, but it was more than enough for planting plants. In Yi Chen's world, it would take a normal person more than an hour to cover 6 to 7 miles. Luckily, Yi Chen's soul power was powerful enough to cover 2 to 3 miles. With one scan, the 800 years old blood sunflowers had nowhere to hide, and were found immediately. This speed shocked Wang Heng, and he could not help but feel a bit sad. The Wang family indeed had a special method to grow the blood sunflowers, but an 800-year-old blood sunflower was not something that could be achieved just by growing it. It had to have a strong life force, otherwise it would lose its life force after 500 years, and the medicinal effect would decrease drastically. That would be for the best. When he is satisfied, our Wang family will be at peace. The reason why Wang Heng asked Yi Chen to come to the garden was because he was afraid that Yi Chen would not be satisfied. On the other side, Yi Chen's eyes brightened. In the middle of thousands of blood sunflowers, there was a blood-red blood sunflower standing there. It was obviously 1,000 years old. Back. Releasing his Zhan Qi, this 1,000-year-old blood sunflower landed on Yi Chen's hand and was put into a jade box. Wang Heng laughed. Last time I checked, there were 3,000-year-old blood sunflowers. Because they would lose their Yuan Qi if they left the ground, I did not pick them. Now there are 2 left. Yi Chen said, "Don't worry. Now that I have the blood sunflower, the conflict between me and the Wang family will be over." Of course I believe what you said. After hearing what Yi Chen had said, Wang Heng's attitude changed a bit. He realized that Yi Chen was actually quite easy to get along with. He was neither arrogant nor pretentious. However, it was this kind of person that was the scariest. It would be fine if he did not mess with him, but if he did, he would have to face a deadly counterattack. He was secretly glad that things had been saved in time. With 3,000-year-old blood sunflowers and 26 800-years-old blood sunflowers, Yi Chen was very satisfied. With this many blood sunflowers, it would be enough for him to perform his minor blood demon body separating great art many times. With this art, there would not be many people below the astral reaching realm who could beat him completely. In other words, he would not be afraid of anyone below the astral reaching realm. Of course, unless it was a life and death situation, it would be best not to use the minor blood demon body separating great art. Not to mention the huge side effects, just the fact that the minor blood demon body separating great art might cause a lot of trouble. Seeing that there were only a few 800 years old blood sunflowers left, Yi Chen did not plan to continue picking them. He knew that he had to leave some space for himself. However, just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard a sound of surprise. "Warrior Yi, what's wrong?" Wang Heng asked confusedly. "Shoo!" Yi Chen did not answer. He extended his body and landed right in the middle of the blood sunflower garden. Using his soul power, he could vaguely sense a bloody gold qi coming out from the soil, forming a special area. In this small area, the blood sunflowers were obviously growing more vigorously, and they were even more mature than the other blood sunflowers. Perhaps it was because the garden was too big, and there were too many blood sunflowers, but no one paid attention to it. After all, without his powerful soul power, Yi Chen would not be able to notice it. There is something strange down there. A thought flashed through his mind. Yi Chen asked Wang Heng, "Can I open up this land? I can make up for the damage." Wang Heng did not doubt him, so he nodded and said, "Warrior Yi, what are you talking about? As long as you are willing, you can take all of the blood sunflowers, and I will not complain." Just as he finished talking, Yi Chen made his move. He waved his right hand, and the soil in this area was dug out. It was a couple of meters wide and 10 meters long, looking like a mud pillar that had just been pulled out. Once the mud pillar came out of the ground, it immediately released a bright bloody gold qi. Under Yi Chen's dismemberment, the mud pillar became smaller and smaller, until it was only the size of a water tank. This water tank-sized mud block was completely covered in a bloody gold color, looking half transparent. Through the translucent mud block, Yi Chen and Wang Heng could see a palm-sized blood sunflower growing inside. Its whole body was a bloody gold color, and it looked like gold or jade shining brightly. "This is 1,500 years, no 2,000 years, no 3,000 years. Blood sunflower." Wang Heng stuttered a bit. What did 3,000 years mean? Even life and death realm warriors could not live longer than 3,000 years. Among the plants, only a small part of them could live up to 3,000 years. However, those that could live up to 3,000 years were mostly useless, such as a 3,000-year-old tree. Plus, the original life of the blood sunflower was only 500 years. Being able to reach 3,000 years, it was not hard to imagine how valuable it would be. Yi-chan was shocked. This blood sunflower's value was probably not any lower than a mid-rank great weapon. A normal 1,000-years-old blood sunflower would be nothing in front of it. Yi-chan did not remove the mud block on the outside. He was afraid that something might happen to the blood sunflower, and if that happened he would really regret it. Leader Wang. Yi-chan looked at Wang Heng. Wang Heng forced a smile. It's yours now. Yi-chan took out the low-rank great blade he got from the Silent Hills from his storage ring and threw it to Wang Heng. This is the top of the low-rank great blade. Catching the blade, Wang Heng's impression of Yi-chan improved a lot. Normally, a low-rank great blade would not be as valuable as one petal of the 3,000-years-old blood sunflower. But this time it was the Wang family, or more accurately Wang Feng, who was in the wrong. If it were not for the fact that Yi-chan was powerful, he would have lost his life. He had already given the Wang family a lot of face by not fighting back. Comparing a 3,000-years-old blood sunflower to his life, there was no need to explain which one was more important. I wonder if Warrior Yi could leave some of its roots for me. The blood sunflower that could live up to 3,000 years old was very precious. Although the blood sunflower cultivated from its roots would not be as good as the main one, it should be able to live up to 1,500 years. Yi-chan nodded. He scanned with his soul power and found a root that would not affect the blood sunflower too much. He moved his fingers and this tiny root was pulled out, floating towards Wang Heng. Wang Heng treated it like a treasure, carefully putting it in a jade box. Then, he thought of something and said to Yi-chan, "The blood sunflower needs to absorb nutrients to survive. My Wang family has specially made these nutrition potions. I can give you some. Sprinkle some on it every once in a while, it will keep the blood sunflower alive." Yi-chan had already put the blood sunflower into his storage ring, so he would not reject this suggestion. The two left the garden and walked towards the living room. Suddenly there was a strange vibration in the sky. Yi-chan and Wang Heng looked up. In the distant sky, a golden flame was expanding rapidly. Wherever it went, the clouds were torn apart, and the air turned into a vacuum state. Fire Spirit Prince. Wang Heng was shocked. Yi-chan asked curiously, "This person looks very young." Wang Heng explained, "The Fire Spirit Prince is the head disciple of the Fire Spirit Palace, one of the top 3 rank 6 martial institutions of the Black Dragon Empire. He was ranked 2nd in the last Hidden Dragon rank. I heard that 3 years ago, when he was only at the mid-class Bing Yuan realm, he already had the power to kill peak-level late-class Bing Yuan realm warriors. 3 years later, he had already reached the peak-level late-class Bing Yuan realm. I wonder how powerful he would be. Last time, I heard that he went to the deep part of the Star Regional Lake to train. Seems to be true. Oh right, Warrior Yi, the Hidden Dragon rank competition is about to start. All the young warriors are heading towards the venue. You should not waste time and miss the chance to join the competition." If Yi-chan did not have the chance to join the Hidden Dragon rank, it would be a joke among jokes. In Wang Heng's mind, he had already ranked him in the top 20 of the Hidden Dragon rank, or even higher. The reason why he did not dare to say that he was invincible among his peers was because of the powerful peak-level class Bing Yuan realm warriors. "I will join." Chapter 235. Wang Heng had given Yi-chan a whole box of nutrition potions for growing plants. There were 30 bottles in each box, which would be enough for him to use for a long time. After saying goodbye to the Wang family, Yi-chan did not leave the Snake Island right away. Instead, he flew into the air and circled around the island. The Snake Island had a radius of hundreds of miles. 1/3 of it was the city, while the other 2/3 were the wild forests. Besides that, there were also rivers and lakes formed by nature. Soon, Yi-chan found a flatland on the back of the Snake Island that was surrounded by mountains and rivers. This place is not bad. There are fish in the water, and there are wild animals in the deep mountains. Yi-chan was not here for sightseeing. In fact, he was planning to train here for a while, completely isolated from the outside world. First of all, I should train my mysterious great art to the 11th realm, the highest realm. With Yi Chen's comprehensive ability, he had been stuck at the 10th realm of the mysterious great art for a couple of months already. Normal mid-rank Earth realm martial arts would not be this difficult. But the mysterious great art was different. Although the 10th realm and the 11th realm were only one realm apart, the gap between them was huge. Not to mention the fact that the Zhan Qi at the 11th realm would be even purer and more aggressive. Only the Zhan Yuan that could be produced would be able to make any mid-rank Earth realm martial arts pale in comparison. It should be known that not every martial art would be able to produce Zhan Yuan during the clasping Yuan realm, even if it was just one breath. For example, Murong Qingcheng had trained one of the top martial arts of the Sky Demon Martial School, the top-rank Earth realm Sky Demon Great Art. Once it reached the highest realm, the quality of the Zhan Qi would be close to the Zhan Yuan. However, it would never reach the level of the Zhan Yuan. In comparison, the Zhan Qi quality of the mysterious great art was not as good as the Sky Demon Great Art. However, if one could produce a breath of Zhan Yuan, the quality of the Zhan Yuan would be way better than any Zhan Qi, which would give it a certain advantage. One attack would be equivalent to a full power attack from a normal early astral reaching realm warrior. If it were not for that, Yi Chen would not have been so obsessed with the mysterious great art. Last time in the Gold Tripod City auction, among the last 3 items, there was a top-rank Earth realm martial art manual, which was bought by an astral-reaching realm warrior for 60,000 mid-rank soul stones. There were 3 reasons why Yi Chen did not participate in the bidding. First, he was worried that the opponent would take revenge on him. Second, the price was too high. 60,000 mid-rank soul stones would be more than half of his wealth. The last reason was that he thought it was too low, and not worth it at all. A top-rank Earth realm martial art might be more powerful than a normal mid-rank Earth realm martial art, but the mysterious great art was not a normal mid-rank Earth realm martial art. It was the top of the top since it came from the Heaven Dream Battle Palace after all. Plus, once trained to its 11th realm, one could produce a breath of Zhan Yuan, which was something that normal high-rank Earth realm martial arts could never compete with. Instead of finding a high-rank Earth realm martial art to train, it would be better to train the mysterious great art to its 11th realm. Unless there was a top-rank Earth realm martial art or even a Heaven realm martial art for him to choose from, there was no need for him to choose. Inside the man-made cave, Yi Chen sat in the middle of the cave with his legs crossed and both of his hands on his abdomen, slowly activating his Zhan Qi. Under Yi Chen's control, the spinning speed of the Zhan Qi spiral inside his dantian increased. Wisps of Zhan Qi were thrown out one after another, making a big circulation along his limbs and hundreds of meridians, forming an extremely complicated and mysterious human Zhan Qi circulation map. As the number of big circulation increased, the Zhan Qi spiral seemed to become tighter and tighter, shrinking towards the center step by step. Nobody could see anything from the outside, but the pressure in the center of the spiral was extremely horrifying. It was a power that could even shatter top-grade steel, and was the core of the Zhan Qi spiral. Time flowed like a small river outside the cave. During this period of time, some high-level warriors would occasionally come to this place, intending to train their martial arts or study their martial arts. Encountering this kind of situation, Yi Chen's Zhan Qi would burst out, and his sword intent would naturally be activated, shooting out a wisp of Zhan Qi along with it. The Zhan Qi that contained the sword intent was just as powerful as the sword Qi. The people who came would cover their heads and run away, knowing that there was a powerful warrior training in this place, and they should not be disturbed. As time went by, all the high-level warriors who lived on the Snake Island knew about this, and had listed the area within 10 miles as a forbidden area. No one dared to step in. However, human beings were always curious about the unknown, and warriors were no exception. Everyone was trying to guess who was the one training. Naturally, Yi Chen did not know what the others were thinking. He was at the most crucial moment, and whether he could succeed or not depended on this one move. Break. The Zhan Qi map inside his body was only missing one point, which was located in the center. As long as he could break through that point, the complete Zhan Qi map of the mysterious great art would appear. Unfortunately, it was not that easy to break through. Although warriors had broken through all the meridians and acupoints in their bodies, it would be easy to break through by running their Zhan Qi alone. However, every martial art had its own unique Zhan Qi map. If one wanted to break through to the next level, He would have to run his Zhanqi according to the map. Otherwise, there would be no effect at all. Within 10 days, Yichun had thought about it countless times, and finally found the perfect breakthrough point. With this breakthrough point as the foundation, the rest of his Zhanqi would continue to flow, and the power would increase layer by layer. He should be able to break through the center point. Without any mistakes, Yichun had succeeded. The perfect Zhanqi map of the mysterious great art had been completely formed. His Zhanqi circulation speed had increased by 30% all of a sudden, and it was connected with the Zhanqi spiral in his dantian. After that, the Zhanqi spiral shrunk twice in a row, and then exploded with a bright dark blue light. The light filled up the entire cave, and the air vibrated like water. The 11th realm of the mysterious great art. Late clasping Yuan realm. Yichun's voice sounded a bit surprised. The moment the mysterious great art had broken through to the 11th realm, for some unknown reason, the bottleneck of his cultivation had suddenly been broken. The quantity of his Zhanqi had been increasing rapidly, and the quality of his Zhanqi had also increased. It was obviously a sign that he had reached the late clasping Yuan realm. Normally, if he wanted to break through to the next realm, it would take him at least 3 to 4 months, and that was only because he had a great comprehensive ability, which made it easier for him to break through to the next realm. However, he had not expected that his cultivation would improve at the same time as the mysterious great art had reached the highest realm, and he had successfully reached the late clasping Yuan realm. Is it because my sword intent has been greatly improved, and I have accumulated enough power? After thinking for a long time, Yichun could only come up with this one explanation, and none of the other explanations were convincing enough. No matter what, the simultaneous improvement of the mysterious great art and his cultivation was a great thing for Yichun. Right now, he was not even sure of his own power. If he could, he really wanted to fight against the ghost head, who had already been killed, and see how many sword attacks it would take to kill him. 3 sword attacks? Or 1 sword attack? Shaking his head, Yichun put his attention on the Zhanqi spiral in his dantian. Didn't they say that once the mysterious great art reaches the 11th realm, a stream of Zhanyuan would appear? How come there is no sign of it at all? Yichun did not think that the content of the manual was fake. There must be a reason for it. After sensing it carefully, Yichun finally found a drop of Zhanqi that was turning dark blue in color. Compared to the other slightly lighter colored Zhanqi, this drop of Zhanqi had a darker color and a higher quality. What was worth noticing was that the dark blue liquid Zhanqi was still increasing in quality, and the process was very subtle, so subtle that Yichun almost did not notice it at all. Yichun thought to himself, it is true that the 11th realm of the mysterious great art can produce a stream of Zhanyuan, but it will take some time. If I am not wrong, once this drop of Zhanyuan is successfully produced, it will be consumed after one use. If I want to use it again, I will have to wait for the new Zhanyuan to be produced, and the cycle will never end. That is not bad. The mysterious great art is only a mid-rank Earth realm martial art after all, so it would be impossible to produce Zhanyuan in a short time. So with one more drop of Zhanyuan inside my body, I will have one more ace attack, which is even more horrifying than the minor blood demon body separating great art. Feeling relieved, Yichun slowly let out a breath, stood up and walked out of the cave. Beside the river, a bonfire was burning, and Yichun was grilling fish. Not eating or drinking for more than 10 days had affected Yichun's physical strength to a certain extent. Before warriors reached the Sea of Souls realm, it was necessary for them to eat. The aroma of grilled fish filled the air, attracting a lot of low-ranked beasts. These beasts watched from afar, not daring to come closer. Although Yichun's chi seemed normal, the deaths of those high-ranked beasts were still fresh in their minds. None of them dared to fight for food. Yichun chuckled as he waved his hand. 7 to 8 huge grilled fish that were not completely cooked shot out in all directions, landing in front of the beasts. Woo! Woo! The low-ranked beasts fought with each other, enjoying the food. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Yichun chased away those low-ranked beasts who were watching. For the next period of time, he was ready to train his sword movements, and he could not afford to be distracted. Right now, Yichun's 3 most powerful sword movements were the 1 sword attack, the lone peak kill, and the sky-shattering clouds. As Yichun reached the late clasping Yuan realm, the 1 sword attack's power had increased again. No one knew if it was a tragedy, but the lone peak kill was still more powerful than the one-sword attack because of its completion. Plus, the one-sword attack had a fatal flaw, which was that it consumed a lot of mental power. So, even Yi-chan did not dare to use it too much. Therefore, the one-sword attack had to be abandoned again. Of course, it did not mean that the one-sword attack was useless. This sword movement would grow along with the warrior's cultivation. At least before the Sea of Souls realm, it would not be outdated. If there was anything to blame, it could only be blamed on Yi-chan's great comprehensive ability, which allowed him to combine the sword movements and the Lone Peak 13 swords into one. It had reached completion, and its power was almost at the top rank Earth Realm sword art. Although the Lone Peak kill had reached completion, Yi-chan still wanted to train it. In his opinion, although the sword movement seemed to have reached completion, the poetic perspective of the Lone Peak 13 swords still had a slight flaw. This flaw was not man-made, but because Yi-chan had not performed the completed Lone Peak kill yet. As for the sky-shattering clouds that had combined the three movements of the Sky Cloud sword art, it was a huge project for Yi-chan. It was too difficult to combine low-rank Earth Realm sword arts, because once the sword art reached the low-rank Earth Realm, each movement would be very close to perfection and would not be able to go any further. Right now, if Yi-chan wanted to combine them together, the difficulty would be unimaginable. Using the example from Yi-chan's world, if you put some scattered parts together, you might be able to make a machine. But to combine a few successfully made machines together, it would require a shocking amount of skills and brains, and it would not be something that could be done in a short period of time. The sky-shattering clouds was hard to combine, but Yi-chan had never underestimated its potential. If he could combine all of the Sky Cloud sword art into one movement, its power would reach the Heaven Realm. Plus, it would be a Heaven Realm sword movement that he had created himself, which would be different from learning from others. Chapter 236. The completed Lone Peak kill was extremely horrifying. Before, 1 meter was the best attacking distance for the Lone Peak kill. But after reaching completion, that distance had increased to 3 meters. Within 3 meters with one sword attack, the enemy would have the illusion that they were thousands of miles away from each other. No matter how fast the enemy's sword art was, it would still be impossible for them to attack in one go. So, they would have plenty of time to defend or counterattack. In a battle between powerful warriors, even the slightest mistake could be fatal. This was exactly the purpose of the Lone Peak kill. Right now, Yi-chan wanted to make this poetic perspective more natural, to merge with the nature, so that warriors with powerful mental power would not be able to tell the difference between real and fake. As for how to make it natural and merge with the nature, according to Yi-chan's plan, it would be to observe the mountains and the rivers to find the pattern. Mountains had their own height, but they did not move at all. Water could be hard or soft, but it would never stop flowing. Combining the two together, one being still and the other being active, they would contradict each other, but they would also be in perfect harmony. It was a realm that was hard to reach with human power. Yi-chan suddenly remembered the 3 levels of Buddhism training. At the first level, mountains were mountains and water were water. This was the beginning of training, where one could only see the surface of things but not the essence. At the second level, mountains were not mountains and water were not water. After reaching a certain level, one would be able to see the essence of things from the surface, and would not be confused by the naked eye. At the third level, mountains were still mountains and water were still water. At this level, one would be able to enter the realm of selflessness, and mountains and rivers would no longer be a hindrance to oneself. Right now, Yi-chan was still at the level where mountains were mountains and water were still water. But of course, compared to normal warriors, his realm was way higher. At least he was already close to the essence of things, while the others were still in a blur, clinging to what they saw in front of them. If I could reach the level where mountains were not mountains and water were not water, not to mention the Lone Peak kill, even the sky-shattering clouds would be completely merged with it, and even more poetic perspectives or even more. These 3 levels of Buddhism seemed to contain everything, and the gap was huge. Even if it was only one level, the gap between them would be like the sky and the abyss. Yi-chan did not expect to reach the second level. In fact, it was useless to hope for it. The second level was too far away from him. Seeing through the essence of things was already close to the realm of the heavenly Tao. It was impossible to comprehend it even if he wanted to. He could only accumulate it step by step. If the first level was divided into 3 stages, then Yichan was only in the second stage. The only thing he could do was to use the second stage to perfect the poetic perspective of the Lone Peak Kill. On the first day, Yichan observed the nearby mountains and rivers. The next day, Yichan observed the mountains and rivers within a radius of 5 kilometers. On the third day, Yichan was observing the landscape of the Snake Island. From the small environment to the big environment, Yichan's comprehension became deeper and deeper. The so-called mountains and rivers were like an ink painting in his eyes, full of artistic conception. Today, Yichan left the Snake Island and stepped into the Star Regional Lake. On the Star Regional Lake, the water was sparkling. It was endless. Looking from afar, the sky and the water seemed to be connected. Stepping on the lake water, Yichan entered a mysterious realm. He no longer tried to comprehend the poetic perspective of the Lone Peak Kill. Instead, it went from intentional to unintentional. But it would not be correct to say that it was unintentional, because his goal was indeed to comprehend the poetic perspective of the Lone Peak Kill. This way it would be closer to nature. In front of him, the surface of the lake was shaking. 3 clasping Yuan realm warriors were attacking a rank 6 beast together. It was an intense battle. Under his feet, the surface of the lake started to ripple. Yichen's mind was suddenly enlightened. It turned out that what the poetic perspective of the Lone Peak Kill lacked was a sense of reality. The mountain did not move and the water flowed. This was the most rigid state. It looked like it was still and moving, but it was actually silent. The mountain was because of its height, so there should be wind blowing through it. The river was because of its softness, so it should be wrinkled by the wind, reflecting the mountain, the trees, and even the plants. A light smile appeared on his face as Yichan walked towards the battle site. The 3 saw Yichan from afar, their faces full of caution. Shoo! Extending his body, Yichan appeared within 10 meters of the 3 within a second. Right at this moment, an extremely strange scene happened. The 3 of them felt like time had slowed down. Yichan was slowly walking towards them from thousands of miles away. He was very, very far away from them. That rank 6 demonic beast with bloodshot eyes was the same. It also didn't notice that Yichan had already arrived in front of it. Reaching out his hand to touch the head of the rank 6 beast, Yichan flashed his body and flew out, leaving this place. The 3 people and the beast came back to their senses. When they saw that Yichan was already on the other side, they were extremely shocked, as if they had seen a ghost. How is this possible? He was so far away. How could he be behind us? Is he a ghost? Are you kidding me? It is broad daylight right now. The rank 6 beast's eyes were wide open. Its claws could not help but touch its head. In a blur, it felt like someone had touched it. All of a sudden, a cold feeling spread through its body. All of its hair stood up, and it was in an extremely terrified state. Fuck! This rank 6 beast is going crazy. Even its hair is standing up. One of them saw the rank 6 beast's hair stand up. He thought that it was going to kill them, so he yelled out. On a tall mountain on an island far away, the Lone Peak Kill's sword movement and poetic perspective have reached completion. Now I need to learn the sky-shattering clouds. Yichan shot up into the sky, shooting towards the clouds. In the Windy Nation. In the main hall of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Besides the leader and all the inner masters, there were 3 other people standing in the hall. Yichan was familiar with these 3 people. They were Su Jing, Luo Hanshan, and Zhu Mei. Luo Xinglia looked at the 4 people down below, feeling quite proud. Who could have thought that after Yichan and Su Jing, Luo Hanshan and Zhu Mei had both reached the early clasping Yuan realm. Now, the Sky Cloud Martial School had a total of 4 core disciples who had reached the clasping Yuan realm, which was way more powerful than the other martial institutions in the Windy Nation. As far as he knew, after the first and second core disciples of the Purple Sun Martial School had died in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Place, only one of them had reached the early clasping Yuan realm. The South Rudra Martial School had 2. The first core disciple Qin Yulian and the second core disciple Nangong Yun. The North Snow Martial Academy had 3 core disciples. The North Snow Child, Lynch, and the Tyrant Blade Yu Yu. Just like the North Snow Martial Academy, the Emerald Martial Palace also had 3 people. Young Master Emerald Zhuang Fei, Extreme Palm Lu Wuxiang, and Jishuan. Ji Shuyan was indeed talented. She had surpassed the original third core disciple, Shi Patian, and was even more powerful than Lu Wuxiang. She was only second to the Emerald Child Zhuang Fei. Even Luo Xinglia was quite shocked, since Ji Shuyan's training time was way too short. Even so, the Sky Cloud Martial School had 4 core disciples who had reached the clasping Yuan realm, which was something that none of the top 4 martial institutions, including the Emerald Martial Academy, could compare with. The reason why the 3 of them were gathered today was for the South Rudra region's Hidden Dragon Rank competition, which was held every 3 years. Chapter 237. The competition of the Hidden Dragon Rank was held once every 3 years. All the young warriors under the age of 24 could participate, regardless of their status. There were hundreds of billions of people in the South Rudra region, and there were countless young warriors and martial geniuses. However, there would only be 72 people on the Hidden Dragon Rank. Once one made it onto the Hidden Dragon Rank, it would be a great honor and glory. In fact, the young warriors on the Hidden Dragon Rank were even more famous than most of the Astral Reaching Realm warriors, because the number of Astral Reaching Realm warriors was way more than 72 people, while there were only 72 people on the Hidden Dragon Rank. However, this year's Hidden Dragon Rank competition was the most popular one in the past 1,000 years. The qualification to participate directly went beyond the Condensing Reality Realm and reached the Clasping Yuan Realm. In other words, without reaching the Clasping Yuan Realm, no matter how powerful one was, one would not be able to participate in the competition. Of course, many of the young warriors who had reached the late Condensing Reality Realm and were able to challenge those with higher cultivation would feel that it was unfair. If they had the chance, they would still be able to be famous in the South Rudra region. Unfortunately, it was different now. There were way too many young warriors who had reached the Clasping Yuan Realm. You could beat normal early Clasping Yuan Realm warriors, but there were so many Clasping Yuan Realm warriors participating in the competition. Any mid-Clasping Yuan Realm warrior could easily knock you out. It would be impossible for you to compete for the 72 places on the ranking. Even early Clasping Yuan Realm warriors would not be able to compete with you. Luo Xinglia glanced at the 3 of them, and finally landed on Su Jing. During the past year, her cultivation had not improved much. She was still at the early Clasping Yuan Realm, and was still quite a distance away from the peak-level early Clasping Yuan Realm. She was slightly weaker than Luo Hanshan and Zhu Mei. However, during the competition, Luo Hanshan and Zhu Mei could not even take 3 punches from her. Some of the inner masters had also admitted that they could not compete with Su Jing, which had surprised Luo Xinglia a lot. He wondered what had happened to Su Jing during the past year. Everyone had their own secrets. As long as they were loyal enough to the martial institution, Luo Xinglia would not ask about it. On the contrary, he was quite happy about it. With Su Jing's help, the Sky Cloud Martial School might be able to shine in the Hidden Dragon Rank competitions and not lose too badly. Indeed, the Hidden Dragon Rank competition that only happens once every 3 years will be held in less than 2 months. This year's competition will be the most prestigious one in the past 1,000 years, and the qualification to participate will be raised to the Clasping Yuan Realm. There are so many disciples in the Sky Cloud Martial School, but only the 3 of you and Yi-chan have reached the Clasping Yuan Realm. Therefore, you will be representing the Sky Cloud Martial School in this year's competition. Is there any problem? Luo Xinglia cleared his throat and asked. No problem. Luo Xinglia nodded and smiled very well. Before you join the competition, the headmaster will explain to you all the things that you need to pay attention to. The headmaster took over and said, the Hidden Dragon Rank competitions are divided into 3 stages. The first stage is the 3 challenges of the Dragon Door, the second stage is the elimination competition, and the third stage is the ranking competition. The first challenge is the wall breaking challenge. Those who do not have enough attacking power will be eliminated immediately. The second challenge is the getting Jade Tag, and those who do not have the Jade Tag will be eliminated as well. The last challenge is the most difficult one, which is called the Jumping Dragon Gate. Only those who manage to make it through will be able to officially compete on the stage, and those who fail will still be eliminated. Normally, 70% of the people would fail in these 3 challenges, and only 30% would make it through. I hope that all of you can make it through these 3 challenges and join the knockout competitions. The three of them had never participated in the hidden dragon rank competitions before. Hearing them, except for Su Jing, the rest of them were a little bit surprised. The 3 challenges of the dragon door sounded very difficult, but 70% of the people had failed in these 3 stages. It was a horrifying ratio. The headmaster glanced at Su Jing, then said to Luo Hanshan and Zhu Mei, "You two have reached the clasping yuan realm a bit too late after all. You have not accumulated enough power yet. At the crucial moment you need to use your brain and not just use brute force." "Yes, headmaster." Luo Hanshan tightened his fists. He had missed the hidden dragon rank competition last time, so he had to succeed this time. He had to at least make it through the 3 challenges of the dragon door. As for the elimination competition, it is actually a competition for points. Because of the competition being so intense, even if you do not get injured from the beginning to the end, you will still feel tired mentally. Therefore, during the elimination competition, you can choose to give up if you run into an opponent that you cannot win against. But of course, if you are able to fight against an opponent, you better not give up. It will be a test for you and you might be able to make a breakthrough during the competition. Right then Luo Xinglia said, "Alright, that's all you need to pay attention to. The most important thing is still your own power. The rest is just a small thing. You guys can leave now. Get ready, we will go to the competition venue tomorrow." The Hidden Dragon Ancient City. Waiting until the 3 left, Luo Xinglia looked around and said, "What do you guys think about the 3 of them?" Most of the people shook their heads. An inner master said, "Su Jing has a chance to make it into the top 100. Hanshan and Zhu Mei will be in danger. The 3 challenges of the dragon door will be a challenge for them. Indeed, they have just reached the clasping yuan realm not long ago. It would be a bit difficult for them." Another person said. Luo Xinglia knocked on the arm of his chair, laughed and said, "It is already a surprise to have Su Jing. Not to mention we still have the biggest ace in the hole. Yichen. I wonder how powerful he has become after 1 year of training." The headmaster showed a smile. He was quite expectant. The 4th master said, "Of course. With this brat's talent, he might have reached the mid-clasping yuan realm. Added with his sword intent, he would have a chance to make it into the list." I agree with the 4th master. Most of the inner masters still liked Yi Chan, and had listed him as a rare martial genius of the Sky Cloud Martial School. But some of them were more pessimistic. On the path of training, although talent and hard work are important, 1 year is still too short. I am afraid it is not going to be a good thing. To be honest, Yi Chun is indeed a rare martial genius of our Sky Cloud Martial School. But even geniuses need to take a nap. He might not be able to grow fast all the time. He might have to stop for a while at some point. Training is a good thing, it would help him grow faster. But who can be sure that 1 year of training would be better than 1 year of hard training? After all, there would be too many things during training, and it would be easy to get distracted. On the other hand, with hard training, you would not waste any of your time. The headmaster argued, "Everything has its pros and cons. Without a doubt, training would be more beneficial than that. With Yi Chen's calm personality, he would know what his goal is, and he would definitely work towards it." Luo Xinglia stopped everyone's discussion. "You all have a point. But as a member of the Sky Cloud Martial School, you should have confidence in your disciples. No matter what kind of environment a genius is in, they would always be different. A genius who could not handle all kinds of challenges would not be able to achieve much no matter how much resources we give him." With his experience, he actually had a lot of confidence in Yi Chan. But of course, he had the same opinion as the 4th master. He thought that Yi Chen's current cultivation should be at the mid-clasping yuan realm, and his sword intent might have improved a little. With the combination of the 2, he might be able to get into the top 72. Oh right, Yi Chan would not miss the competition, would he? Suddenly someone asked. The headmaster shook his head. No, he would not. People who have learned the sword intent would not break their promise, unless... The headmaster did not finish his sentence. The training would be extremely dangerous, and he hoped that Yi Chan would be able to join the competition safely. 10,000 meters in the sky, the sea of clouds was rolling, and everything was white. In the middle of the sea of clouds, Yi Chan held up his star scar sword with both of his hands. He closed his eyes slightly and stood still like a mountain. This time he did not use his soul power. He was purely using the poetic perspective of the sky-shattering clouds to feel the pattern and mystery of the sea of clouds, trying to find a way to break through. Break. The second the sea of clouds and the poetic perspective seemed to be in harmony, Yi-chan threw out his sword attack. It was a very simple sword attack. There was no wind-breaking sound, no bright sword chi, but that unbreakable exploding power that could destroy everything and cut everything into pieces. Pooh! The sword pressure made contact with the sea of clouds. Within hundreds of meters, the sea of clouds looked like it had been torn into pieces. They flew everywhere, and could not gather back together. No, it's still lacking a little. Seems like something is missing. Yi-chan opened his eyes and shook his head. He had stayed in the sea of clouds for 3 days and 3 nights. If it were not for the pellets that could instantly replenish Zhanqi, his mysterious Zhanqi would not be able to support him to stay in the sky for a long time. In these 3 days there was nothing but the sea of clouds in his eyes. He thought that with the 70% sword intent as his support it would be much easier, since it was only combining the 4th movement of the Sky Cloud sword art, which would be much easier than the completed Lone Peak Kill sword movement and poetic perspective. Unfortunately, he had guessed wrong. The Lone Peak Kill and the Sky Shattering Clouds were 2 different areas. Without reaching an extremely high realm, there would be no way to find the similarities between them. Therefore, combining the Sky Shattering Clouds would have to start all over again, and it had nothing to do with what he had learned from the Lone Peak Kill. Pap! The sunny weather suddenly darkened. The first of the 3 sky, the surprising sky, had thunder yuan chi pouring down, turning into bright lightning and shooting into the sea of clouds. The sea of clouds seemed to have gained an endless amount of power. It kept rolling and the color had turned from white to black. It looked like an ancient demon god was about to wake up and punish the land. Thunder, cloud, exploding power. Yi-chan did not try to avoid the attack of the lightning. Although the thunder yuan chi in the surprising sky could kill warriors below the astral reaching realm, once it came down from the surprising sky it would be mixed with a lot of other chi which would decrease its power by a lot. It would not affect Yi-chan at all. I see. Just learning the clouds is way too hard, and it is still not something I can understand. But with the thunder power, the exploding power of the clouds would be much more obvious, which would make it easier to understand. Yi-chan was very clear that just the natural power alone seemed easy, but it was actually the hardest to learn. If he could add something else into it, it might be able to help him. For example, if he tried to learn the clouds by himself, he would not get any results for 3 days. But right now, with the thunder yuan chi pouring in, that barrier had been shattered, and he had finally learned something. Without closing his eyes, Yi-chan was in the middle of the lightning and the sea of clouds. He yelled loudly, his voice sounding like thunder as he threw out a sword attack with an endless exploding power. Crack! The power of that sword attack was unimaginable. It had attracted all of the lightning around Yi-chan's body, and the sea of clouds had gathered together, increasing Yi-chan's power. The next second, thousands of meters in front of him, the sea of clouds splashed everywhere like water. Lightning and thunder clashed together, bursting out an eye-catching bright light. The combination of the 4th movement had been completed. Chapter 238. With the sky-shattering clouds which had combined the 4 movements of the Sky Cloud sword art, and the completed Lone Peak Kill, Yi-chan's understanding of sword arts had almost reached its limit. He would not be able to make any more progress in a short period of time, but it was already more than enough, since no one knew more about the horrifying power of these 2 top sword movements than him. If the Lone Peak Kill was a one-hit kill, then the sky-shattering clouds would be the kind of powerful attack that could shake the whole world. It was fearless and unbreakable. Shoo! Since he had achieved his goal, Yi-chan did not have to stay in the sky anymore. He extended his body and turned into a beam of blue light, shooting out of the clouds and returning to the ground. After resting for 1 night on the Snake Island, Yi-chan left on the 2nd day. As for Wang's snake, who had the intention to join the competition, he had not come out from the forbidden place of the Wang family yet. In fact, even if he came out, he would not be allowed to join the Hidden Dragon rank competition. It was a rule of the Wang family. The competition would be held in an ancient city in the middle of the 3 big countries. It was called the Hidden Dragon Ancient City, which was said to be an ancient city. Under the city there was a dragon fountain that could leave at any time, which would guarantee the luck of the ancient city. The distance to the hidden dragon ancient city was more than 1,000,000 miles. If he rushed at his full speed, it would only take him 20 days to get there. However, a long journey was not the same as a short one. Even with the pellets that could instantly replenish his zhanqi, Yi Chen's meridians would not be able to handle such a high speed of zhanqi circulation. His meridians would definitely break down and he would become a disabled person. Normally, for a distance of more than 100,000 miles, clasping Yuan realm warriors would not rush at their full speed. Most of them would fly at 1/3 or even half of their full speed, and they would have to take some time to rest and recover their meridians, adjusting their body to the best condition. Leaving the Star Regional Lake, Yi Chen passed through the north of the Black Dragon Empire. The weather here was extremely cold. The mountains and lakes were all covered in thick ice and snow. The wind that was blowing on his face was no different from ice blades, hitting on his protective zhanqi layer and making a cracking sound. "Leader, don't worry. I will be back in a bit." There was a small village in the endless ice mountains. Outside of the village, a teenager who was about 18 years old was waving his hand to say goodbye. The village chief was a white-haired old man. Although his voice wasn't loud and the gale was strong, his aged voice seemed to be able to ignore the laws of space and directly reach the young man's ears. "Cooper, didn't you say that you were going out for a stroll? Why did you steal so many spirit stones from me last night?" The young man rubbed his head and laughed dryly. "You found out. Actually, I plan to find a place to cultivate in seclusion. I can't do that without spirit stones. Alright, I have a lot of inspiration now. I need to find a place to go into seclusion as soon as possible. Otherwise, all the inspiration will run away." In such a frigid environment, the young man only wore a simple short coat. His figure flashed and disappeared into the gray gale. Hundreds of miles away, the young man laughed proudly. "Silly old man who's going into seclusion. I, Tuabaku, am going to join the hidden dragon rank competitions and meet the young warriors from the South Rudra region. Then, I will travel around the true spirit continent and meet the young warriors from all over the world. Anyway, I will not be coming back." Roar! There were many demon beasts in the Frost Mountain range. A top-level 6 demon beast, the double-headed ice demon bear, suddenly jumped out of the snow and pounced at the young man. The young man had no intention of dodging, or rather, he was indifferent, allowing the twin-headed demonic ice bear to pounce on him. Dang! The young man did not move an inch, but the twin-headed demonic ice bear looked like it had bumped into a mountain that was made of steel. "Move aside, I have no time to play with you." Grabbing the twin-headed demonic ice bear's paw, the young man casually threw it away. No one knew where he had thrown it. Outside of the village gate, the middle-aged man wearing beast skin clothes said helplessly, "Leader, this brat is definitely going to join the hidden dragon rank competitions. Are you really going to let him go?" The leader rubbed his beard and said with a smile, "Young people should always have some ambition. Even if he does not go out, I will figure out a way to let him go." "Then why didn't you let him go before?" "He is not old enough and his power is not enough. Plus he has been a bit arrogant lately. Let him go out and try his luck." The cold wind was extremely cold, cutting through people's faces like knives. It had been 10 days, but Yi Chen had still not made it through the northern part of the Black Dragon Empire. Although there are not many cities in the north, the quality of the warriors is quite high. It seems that the cold place is indeed challenging, especially when one's cultivation is low. Standing on top of an icy mountain, Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back, taking a break. In the distance, a human figure flew over at an extreme speed. He is about the same age as me, and his cultivation is also at the late clasping Yuan realm. He should be a good opponent. I should not be able to beat him with one punch. The young man named Tuabaku did not slow down, instead, he increased his speed. He rushed towards Yi Chen at a speed that was faster than the sound barrier as he yelled, "Take this!" Yi Chen had already noticed him, and thought that he was just passing by. He did not know that he was actually coming for him. Crack! The icy mountain was the first to collapse under the horrifying fist pressure. Avalanches were everywhere, looking horrifying. Yi-chan stepped on a falling rock, staring at the young man in a simple short robe. 100 meters. 50 meters. 10 meters. Right then, Tuobaku realized that Yi-chan was getting further and further away from him. But the next second, he had been punched, and his body could not help but fly backward. Strange, how did he manage to hit me? Tuobaku was shocked. Take another punch. Tuobaku did not believe it, so he stabilized his body and flew towards Yi-chan at an even faster speed. He threw out a punch from a distance and the air kept on exploding. Yi-chan's eyebrows twitched, such a powerful fist art. His power is even more powerful than Wang Heng's. That physical defense is unimaginable. He had been punched by me, but he did not seem to be affected at all. Boom! Tuobaku was punched again. The clothes on his upper body had been torn apart, revealing his horrifying muscles, which looked like rocks but also like steel. I see. You are messing with my sense of space. Tuobaku spat out a mouthful of saliva and laughed out loud. He threw out another attack for the third time. He was confident that this time, he would be able to hit Yi-chan and blow him away. Your instinct is very sharp. Unfortunately, it would be useless even if you knew. Yi-chan smiled lightly as he tapped on the falling rock with the tip of his foot, appearing within 10 meters of Tuobaku. His right fist was thrown out at a moderate speed, giving people a feeling that it was very casual. Chin. His iron-like muscles shone with a dark blue light. Tuobaku had been punched in the chest, and his whole body had sunk into the collapsed snow peak, disappearing without a trace. The snow peak had exploded, and Tuobaku had shot out without any injuries. Yi-chan said, "Alright, if this is a battle, then the result is already out. If you want to continue, I cannot guarantee that you will survive." Once the words came out, Yi-chan intentionally let out a bit of sword intent. Tuobaku said, "So, you are a sword user. Damn. So, I do not even have the right to force you to use all of your power. So sick." Yi-chan said, "If you had run into other people, you would have had a great chance of winning. But running into me is your misfortune." "Indeed. No matter how hard I tried, I could not hit you." "Oh right, you must be going to the Hidden Dragon rank competition, right?" "Me too. How about we go together? It is so boring on the road." Tuobaku could not stand the loneliness the most. He had stayed in a small village for more than 10 years. He really did not know how he had survived. Yi-chan glanced at Tuobaku. "Never mind. If I go with you, I am afraid that I will not be able to make it to the Hidden Dragon ancient city." This guy was too good at finding trouble. It was hard to guarantee that he would not find someone else to fight and waste time. Without giving Tuobaku any chance, Yi-chan extended his body and shot out. Tuobaku scratched his head, feeling a bit speechless. There is a late-clasping Yuan realm warrior over there as well, but he is a bit older." Inside a mountain at the edge of the 100,000 mountain range, Murong Qingcheng, who was in purple, was sitting on a cushion with her legs crossed. Her hair was like a waterfall, and her eyes were closed tight. Her beautiful body was like a jade statue, not moving at all. Who? There was a vague black chi flow in the air, and as the black chi flow appeared, the ground would sink a couple of feet. Looking over her head, there was a straight tunnel going down. It was not hard to guess that Murong Qingcheng's original training spot was on top of the mountain. As time went on, it had sunk down bit by bit, eventually reaching the bottom of the mountain. After an unknown period of time, a shadow of a black petal appeared on top of Murong Qingcheng's head. The shadow was getting clearer and clearer until it was almost real. When it was only one step away from the real thing, the shadow shattered and completely merged into Murong Qingcheng's body. Her Zhen Qi flowed faster, and an extremely mysterious Zhen Qi route map appeared in her body. It looked like a pattern but also like a pattern. The lines had been dyed by the Zhen Qi into a crystal black color, resonating with the Zhen Qi spiral in her lower abdomen. Right at the moment when the Zhen Qi route map was formed, the mountain was crushed by a terrifying invisible force, and was completely flattened. Standing in the middle of a pile of rocks, there was not a single thing within 10 meters around Murong Qingcheng. Those huge rocks were easily crushed before they could even get close to her. "I've reached the 10th level of the Great Sky Devil magic. The Sky Devil flower is indeed worthy of its reputation." Slowly letting out a breath, Murong Qingcheng looked around, and didn't feel surprised at all. In the martial city, she had bid farewell to Yi-chan, then went back to the Sky Devil Martial School to make some preparations. After that, she immediately left for the 100,000 mountain range to look for the Sky Devil flower. The Sky Devil flower was extremely rare in the world. Normally, it would be guarded by a Sky Devil serpent. Fortunately, as Qi Xiaofeng had said, the Sky Devil serpent had once fought against a powerful being, and had also suffered from the thunder calamity, and was either severely injured or dead. After spending over 2 months, Murong Qingcheng finally found the Sky Devil flower in a cold lake. The Sky Devil flower was extremely powerful, and it was obviously impossible to swallow it all at once. Therefore, Murong Qingcheng only took 1 petal and swallowed it. After a couple of months of closed-door training, her top-rank Earth Realm martial art, the Great Sky Devil art, had directly improved from the 8th level to the 10th level. If she swallowed the whole Sky Devil flower, it would be very possible for her to reach the 14th level. As for the 15th level, it should not be that easy. But of course, what Murong Qingcheng wanted was not the Sky Devil flower's medicinal effect, but the mysterious power contained in it. This mysterious power was closely related to the Great Sky Devil art, and only with this power could she break through to the next level of her martial art. Furthermore, the Sky Devil flower had helped her to reach the late-class Bing Yuan realm from the peak of the mid-class Bing Yuan realm. Her power had not only increased by 1 or 2% but had almost doubled. Now that I think about it, the Hidden Dragon rank competition will start in a month. I won't be able to make it in time if I travel by myself. I have to go to the Sky Devil Martial School and choose a top-rank level 6 flying demonic beast. Her body flashed, and her purple robe fluttered in the air. Like a bubble, Murong Qingcheng's body disappeared. Chapter 239. The time of the Hidden Dragon rank competition was getting closer and closer, and the South Rudra region was getting more and more chaotic. Besides the hundreds of different martial institutions, tens of thousands of lone warriors had rushed to the Hidden Dragon ancient city. The lowest cultivation among them was at the class Bing Yuan realm, and none of them were below the class Bing Yuan realm. As for the reason, it was very simple. Only the ranked martial institutions could bring some of their disciples who were below the class Bing Yuan realm to watch the competition. As for the outsiders, they would have to be at least at the class Bing Yuan realm. Plus, there was a limit on the number of people who could go beyond the Hidden Dragon ancient city's capacity. Unless one was an astral-reaching realm warrior, he or she would not be able to enter. Under this rule, the lone warriors who were at the class Bing Yuan realm would have to leave a few months before the competition. If they could not watch the competition, they would regret it for 3 years. Plus, this year's Hidden Dragon rank competition was the most popular one, which would only happen once in 1,000 years. They would regret it for 10 lifetimes. When the whole South Rudra region was heated up, some of the powerful martial institutions were also making their own preparations. This year's Hidden Dragon rank competition would be the most popular one in the past 1,000 years. There would be countless martial geniuses. Plus, under the Hidden Dragon ancient city was the Earth Qi Dragon Fountain. It could be said that the ranking would directly affect the luck of the individual and the martial institution. This was not just a bluff, it was actually real. All of the young warriors who had shown their talents in the Hidden Dragon rank competitions had basically achieved something. The higher the ranking, the more achievements they would have. The competition was not only about the ranking but also about the luck. Sky Flying Devil Martial School. An extremely tall mountain pierced through the clouds, disappearing into the thick layers of clouds. On top of the mountain there was a majestic pitch-black palace. Outside of the palace, there were 2 black statues with wings on their backs and a third eye in between their eyebrows, guarding on both sides. Normal people would not dare to look at them directly. Inside the palace, the leader of the Sky Flying Devil Martial School had his back facing the palace door, looking high up in the air. This year's Hidden Dragon rank competition is not going to be easy. Mo Yen, as the head disciple of our Sky Flying Devil Martial School, you only managed to get the 8th place in the last Hidden Dragon rank competition. I am very disappointed. In the middle of the palace, 2 young men and women stood side by side. The teenager in black on the left bowed and said with respect, "Leader, Mo Yen has disappointed you." This time, I will definitely get into the top 3 and fight for more luck for the Sky-Flying Devil Martial School. That's for the best. Let's not talk about you for now. Qingcheng, you were only ranked 27th in the previous batch. Are you still planning to hold back this time around? The purple-clothed woman beside the black-clothed young man said, Sect Master, in the previous tournament, my great Sky Demon art had just reached the 7th level, so I didn't have much confidence in making it into the top 10. That's why I didn't give it my all and planned to save it for this tournament. The woman in purple was Murong Qingcheng. Your Sky Demon Great Art has reached the 10th level in such a short time, surpassing Mo Yen. Seems like you have had some other adventures out there. Alright, this year's top 10 Hidden Dragon rank, our Sky Demon Martial School will definitely take 2 places, and become the number 1 ranked 6 martial institution in the whole South Rudra region. This was a scorching volcanic zone. In the center of the volcanic zone, there were many red palaces surrounding it. And in the largest volcano, as far as the eye could see, it was all golden magma. On the magma, there was a large piece of land that had a radius of several dozen li, and on it sat a pure gold palace. There were only 2 people standing in the hall. Qihua, you were the number 2 in the last Hidden Dragon rank. What do you think this time? A middle-aged man wearing a pure gold long robe sat on a huge chair. The chair was neither made of wood nor metal, but something similar to rocks. It was extremely hard and it looked very powerful. The young man said, I, the Fire Spirit Prince, will not lose again. Very good. The number 1 of the Hidden Dragon rank is the most powerful one, and you will get the most luck. If you can get the number 1, then you will definitely be worthy of the title of Fire Spirit Prince. The middle-aged man laughed. The whole palace seemed to be shaking, and the magma outside was boiling. Daoxian, your Heartless spell has reached the 10th level, and your Heartless Sword Intent has reached 60% as well. You are indeed a rare martial genius of our Heartless Martial School. On top of the cliff, the middle-aged man in blue stood with his hands behind his back. His clothes were fluttering in the wind, as if he was about to leave. The young man with a cold expression said, Leader, you are flattering me. However, the real heartless does not mean that you are heartless. Instead, it means that you see everything as nothing. As long as you are heartless, there is no need for you to care about the surface. This is the Heartless Tao. If you can understand this, no one in the Hidden Dragon rank will be able to compete with you. Heartless does not mean that you are heartless. Seeing everything as nothing. The young man seemed to be thinking, this might be a bit difficult for you. Even I have not figured it out yet. I just want you to walk in this direction. You do not need to be restricted by the word heartless. Yes, leader. Although the young man did not understand the meaning behind it, he had already memorized it. In the Grey Mystery Nation, which was right next to the Black Dragon Empire, the Grey Mystery Nation had the largest land area among the 3 nations, but only 1/10 of it was actually populated. The rest of the land was made up of 10,000 mountains. In the west of the Grey Mystery Nation, the sky was filled with colorful clouds. Visible to the naked eye, an extremely thick beam of light shot down from the sky and landed on the vast martial institution. This martial institution was one of the 2 ranked 6 martial institutions in the Grey Mystery Nation, the Sunset Martial School. Your head disciple was ranked number 6 in the last Hidden Dragon rank, but he is already over 24 years old, so he cannot join anymore. So, I will leave the top 10 competition to you, Qian Yuan. The leader of the Sunset Martial School looked worried. This year's Hidden Dragon rank competition would be the most prosperous one in the past 1,000 years, and the luck would be immeasurable. However, the head disciple was already over 24 years old, so he could not join anymore. Although the second disciple had improved extremely fast and was already extremely powerful at the age of 19, he was still not powerful enough to compete with the top young warriors in the last Hidden Dragon rank. The young man who looked very handsome said, Leader, I can do whatever the head disciple can do. You don't have to worry. I don't expect you to get into the top 5, but you have to get into the top 10. Everything will fall when it reaches its peak, and the Hidden Dragon rank competition is the same. The luck in the next Hidden Dragon rank competition will not be as good as this one. Qian Yu knows. The Floating Mountain. It was both the name of the magical mountain and the name of a rank 6 martial institution. In the history of this martial institution, There had been 2 life and death realm warriors, which had once brought the floating mountain martial school up to the rank 5 martial institution. However, there was always a downfall when there were no new life and death realm warriors. Therefore, the floating mountain martial school had dropped from rank 5 to rank 6. However, no one dared to underestimate the power of the floating mountain martial school, not even the royal families of the 3 great nations. In the middle of the endless mountain range, 1,000 meters tall mountain was floating in the air, 3,300 meters above the ground. According to the rumors, this mountain was brought back from some ancient land by the second life and death realm warrior of the floating mountain martial school. It contained the magnetic godly iron, which could repel the gravity of the earth. That was why it could float in the air all year round. There was only one palace on the mountain, which was the main palace of the floating mountain martial school. On the plaza outside the main palace, a muscular middle-aged man and a young man stood side by side, looking down at the vast land below the mountain. Unfortunately, my potential has been used up, and I cannot reach the life and death realm. But you are different. Your talent and comprehensive ability are even more powerful than mine. You are the most talented one among all of the Song King's descendants. You will have the chance to take the most difficult step and become the new king of the floating mountain martial school. Right now it is time to test you. As a descendant of a king, you have to do what only a king can do. Continue to take the first place of the hidden dragon rank and bring endless luck to our floating mountain martial school. The young man emitted an aura as if he was looking down on the whole world. His eyes were like a god's as he said lightly, "The South Rudra region is only my starting point. The true spirit continent is my stage. Big Grandpa, don't worry. The first place of the hidden dragon rank is already under my control. Without any accidents, when I reach the top again, it will be the beginning of me leaving the South Rudra region and heading to the true spirit continent." The middle-aged man laughed. In his mind, Shungar was indeed talented and had the demeanor of a king. What he lacked was an equally powerful opponent. Only an equally powerful opponent would be able to stimulate his potential and reach the level of Xianhou. After all, if a lion stayed in a group of sheep for too long, its claws and teeth would slowly become blunt. But if a lion stayed in a group of lions, it would only become more powerful, unless it lost its pride as a lion. The Ice Crystal Empire, an empire of ice and snow. In this huge empire there were also 2 rank 6 martial institutions, the Sky Falling Martial School and the Ice Extreme Martial School. The main palace of the Sky Falling Martial School was built on a meteor that was dozens of miles wide. It was dark with a hint of red, and its whole body was shining with a metallic luster. There was not a single bit of rock on the outside. Inside the Sky Falling Palace, the leader and the few core masters were all smiling. God wants our Sky Falling Martial School. Yun'er has trained his Sky Falling Great Art to its 11th level at the most critical moment. Indeed, the Sky Falling Great Art is a top-rank Earth Realm martial art. The power of its 11th level would be absolutely horrifying. This time, not to mention the top 3, he could even fight for the first place and beat Xikongshan from the Floating Mountain Martial School. Xikongshan has inherited the bloodline of the Song King, which means that he has a huge potential. However, in front of absolute power, even the king's bloodline would have to be defeated. Haha, this is great. The teenager with the unrestrained temperament laughed. Leader, masters, you have to keep this a secret. I want to take the first place unexpectedly in the Hidden Dragon rank competition and show the power of our Sky Falling Martial School. Of course, all of us here are core masters of our Sky Falling Martial School. We will definitely keep this a secret for you. You should not let your guard down. Take this opportunity to get familiar with the 11th level of the Sky Falling Great Art and try to use its power to its limit. Also, if you can get the first place this time, the position of the leader of the Sky Falling Martial School will be yours for sure. The leader of the Sky Falling Martial School said, "Alright, the first place of the Hidden Dragon rank is mine for sure." The teenager was full of spirit and ambition. The Ice Extreme Martial School was located in the middle of thousands of miles of ice mountains. There were white mountains, white water, and white sky everywhere. Inside the magnificent ice mountains, there was a palace that was built completely out of ice. Bingling, although our Ice Extreme Martial School does not like to fight, But the competition of the hidden dragon rank is not only about the ranking. It is also a place to fight for luck. No matter if it is personal luck or the luck of our martial school, we have to fight for it. This time I want you to get into the top 3 of the hidden dragon rank. The middle-aged lady said coldly. In the middle of the palace, the cold-looking lady in white nodded and said, "Leader, don't worry. I Bingling will either not fight for it or I will fight for the first place, and win the endless luck for our martial school." Good. Then I will not worry anymore. Chapter 240. Half a month later, Yichun had finally made it through the northern part of the Black Dragon Empire, and arrived at the land between the 3 countries. This land was vast, and the mountains were ancient and steep. In the beginning, Yichun did not notice anything different. But as he got deeper, he realized that there was an ancient qi being emitted from this land. It seemed to be able to reverse the yin and yang, messing up the fate of the world. The hidden dragon ancient place has existed since the ancient times. It is said that it has suppressed 72 dragon veins, and among them, the earth qi dragon vein under the hidden dragon ancient city is the most powerful one. It controls the flow of the earth qi in the whole South Rudra region. Now that I see it, it is indeed extraordinary. It is no weaker than all the ancient inheritance places in the whole South Rudra region. In some aspects it might even be more powerful. But why do those inheritance places no longer exist in the world? Why does the hidden dragon ancient place still exist? Yichun was shocked by this vast land. His soul power spread out, and he felt like he could hear the roars of dragons. It was as if his soul was about to be shattered. Entering the hidden dragon ancient place, there were more and more warriors passing by. A lot of them were flying while discussing in a low voice, sounding very respectful. The hidden dragon ancient place is not something that any country in the whole South Rudra region can take over. In the history, there was a super country that wanted to build a capital in the hidden dragon ancient place, gathering all of the luck in the whole South Rudra region. But in only 72 days, the capital was destroyed, and all of the royal family members had died. Since then, no one has tried to take over the hidden dragon ancient place. Even the life and death realm warriors are afraid of this place. The hidden dragon ancient place is a place of luck, but it is also a place of death. According to the ancient records, a lot of life and death realm warriors have been killed there, including an unbeatable king warrior who had been titled emperor level. It had even killed a lot of foreign race king warriors who wanted to get their hands on the hidden dragon ancient place. 20 years ago, it was not like the leader of the Nine Ghost cult did not have any ideas about the hidden dragon ancient place. But, as you all know, the whole Nine Ghost cult was completely destroyed. Even the leader of the Nine Ghost cult was being chased by Xianhou and the Dragon King. 20 years ago, Xianhou was still very young, and did not have much power. Although the Dragon King was an experienced king warrior, he would not have much chance of winning in a one-on-one battle. Normally, even if the 2 of them combined forces, they would not be able to kill the leader of the Nine Ghost cult, since the battles between life and death realm warriors were not normal, and there would not be any deaths. Even if the leader of the Nine Ghost cult could not win against the 2 of them, he should still be able to leave safely. I guess he might have been badly wounded in the hidden dragon ancient place, and his power had dropped. These things are hard to explain, and no one knows the details. What is the point of us making wild guesses? No matter how mysterious the hidden dragon ancient place is, it has nothing to do with us. Only the young generation will be able to get the luck from there. We just need to watch. You are right. On the Rising Dragon platform, the luck will be on you. I wonder who else would be able to get the luck from the Earth Chi Dragon fountain in the whole South Rudra region? Those old guys should be here already. Let's hurry. They were all astral-reaching realm warriors, so they were extremely fast. Within a couple of blinks of an eye, they had already left the other warriors far behind. Hearing them, Yichun gasped. The hidden dragon ancient place had killed a lot of life and death realm warriors, including an unbeatable king warrior who had been titled emperor level. It had killed all the royal members of a super nation. No one knew if the leader of the Nine Ghost cult was still alive, and the Nine Ghost cult had been destroyed. No matter which one it was, they were all so shocking. This vast land with an ancient qi was no longer normal in Yichun's eyes. It was a place where light and darkness interweaved. It was both a place of luck and a place of death. The 72 Dragon Fountain matches the top 72 of the Hidden Dragon rank, fighting for the luck. It seems like the competitions for the Hidden Dragon rank are not just for show. There must be something else that I should not underestimate. A thought flashed through his mind as Yichun increased his speed, flying towards the Hidden Dragon Ancient City. The Hidden Dragon Ancient Place was way bigger than any of the three great nations. There were a lot of mountains that were connected together with no beginning or end. However, in the center of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Place there was a special place. It seemed to be the beginning and the end of the mountains. The long mountains from all directions were like dragons that surrounded this place, sinking into the ground and gathering in the center. In this huge area, an extremely majestic ancient city was sitting on top of it, suppressing the thousands of mountains. It looked extremely ordinary, but it seemed to be extremely noble. This ancient city was indeed the place where the competitions of the Hidden Dragon rank would be held. The Hidden Dragon Ancient City. The history of the Hidden Dragon Ancient City could not be studied anymore. All one knew was that it had existed for a very long time, since the ancient era. It had been standing for countless years. In this place, even the life and death realm warriors would have to be respectful, not daring to do anything that would affect the luck. On the vast plain outside the south gate of the Hidden Dragon Ancient City, millions of warriors had gathered. It was a sea of people covering the whole mountain. The martial institutions that had arrived early had already built some simple buildings on the plain for their disciples to live in. As for the lone warriors, they did not care so much. They just sat on the ground with their legs crossed and started to cook food over the bonfires. They would call their friends from time to time, making all kinds of noises. The people from the Sky Cloud Martial School had arrived not too early, but not too late either. A couple of inner masters had built 7 to 8 wooden houses on a small hill 10 miles away from the south gate. Outside the wooden houses, Lu Hanshan looked into the distance. He could not help but yell, "So many people, and all of them are clasping Yuan Realm warriors. Millions of clasping Yuan Realm warriors. It is indeed unimaginable. Even the clouds in the sky have been pushed away." Zhu Mei stood on the side looking up at the sky. Millions of Zhenqi vibrations had combined together. Although they were all contained and did not release it on purpose, those vibrations were still extremely horrifying. If a life and death realm warrior did not use any special skills, facing so many clasping Yuan Realm warriors, he would still be killed. But of course, life and death realm warriors were not stupid. They could leave whenever they wanted, and no one would be able to stop them. Su Jing's expression was as cold as always. She did not say anything. Luo Xinglia walked out of the wooden house and said, "The Hidden Dragon rank competition is related to the fortune of our Sky Cloud Martial School. Entering the city is a fortune, don't disappoint me." "Yes, leader." The three nodded seriously. In the next couple of days, a large number of martial institutions had been arriving every day. Because of the overwhelming number of people, the area around the south gate was almost packed. These martial institutions had no choice but to get rid of some lone warriors and occupy a large area to build houses for their disciples to live in. "Look, it is Wei Renjia, who was ranked 37th in the last Hidden Dragon rank. His blade art is very powerful. I heard that his blade intent has already reached the entry level. Qi Xiaofeng, who was ranked 38th in the Hidden Dragon rank, is also here. There is also Lung Wuqing, the child demon, who was ranked 45th. He had beaten a couple of clasping Yuan Realm warriors when he was only at the peak level late condensing reality realm. Now that he has reached the early clasping Yuan Realm, I wonder how powerful he has become. I think even the young warriors at the mid-clasping Yuan Realm would not dare to say that they could win against him." Hearing the people's discussions, Luo Hanshan and Zhu Mei suddenly became nervous. Before they came here, they thought that with their current cultivation, they could at least compete with them, even if they could not get into the top 72. But now they realized that these people had made even more progress than they had. That Wei Renjia was the most powerful one among all the young warriors they had ever met. His blade intent had actually reached the entry level. Not to mention fighting against him face to face, it would already be amazing if they could not break down when facing his blade intent. Qi Xiaofeng and Lung Wuqing were both powerful warriors. One was extremely talented. while the other was a regular warrior who had challenged people with higher cultivation than him. Glancing at Su Jing, who didn't show any reaction, Luo Hansan sighed in his head and thought, "There is always someone better than you out there. Yichun, I wonder what level you have reached now." Shaking his head, Luo Hansan gave a bitter smile. Yichun's talent and comprehensive ability were undeniable, but he had started a bit too late after all. Otherwise, he might have been able to reach the top of the hidden dragon rank, even into the top 40 or even the top 30. He was not underestimating Yichun, it was just that the young warriors who had made it to the last hidden dragon rank had improved way too fast, way too fast. After all, they were not the only ones who had been improving. Roar! 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 Roars of demonic beasts could be heard from afar. The people from the 6th grade Sunset School are here. And the Sky Meteor sect, the Heartless sect, and the Sky Demon sect, the Fire Spirit Martial School, the Ice Extreme Martial School, and the Floating Mountain Martial School are right behind them. All the noises on the plain had disappeared completely. It was dead silent. Rank 6 martial institutions were different from those below rank 7. Normally, there would be a huge gap between rank 7 and rank 6, just like the gap between the Clasping Yuan realm and the Astral Reaching realm. It would be a huge gap, and only a powerful warrior could be in charge of it. Each of the 7 rank 6 martial institutions had a very rich history, which had been accumulated for thousands of years. Among them, the Floating Mountain Martial School was the most powerful one, with a history even longer than the 3 great nations. 2 king warriors had been born in the martial institution. One was the Stone King, and the other was the Tsang King. The area closest to the south gate was a huge open area, which was reserved for the 7 rank 6 martial institutions. No one dared to go up and fight for it, and no one chose to get close to it either. All kinds of powerful demonic beasts landed on the ground. The people from the 7 rank 6 martial institutions all jumped down from the backs of the beasts and chose their own spots. The elders of the martial institutions gathered together and discussed in a low voice, while the young warriors stood in the front, which was very eye-catching. The head disciple of the Skyfall Martial School, Lin Yun, glanced at the few of them and sneered. This year's hidden dragon rank would definitely belong to him. Li Daoxian from the Heartless Martial School did not look around, as his sight landed on the south gate of the Hidden Dragon Ancient City. The 2 head disciples of the Sky Demon Martial School, Mo Yen and Murong Qingcheng, exchanged a look. They could see the seriousness in each other's eyes. After 3 years, all of their old rivals' power had reached a very high level. Especially Lin Yun from the Skyfall Martial School, they felt a huge threat. A red halo appeared in Mo Yan's eyes as he stared at Lin Yun. He opened his mouth slowly. The qi on your body is 5 times more powerful than 3 years ago. 5 times. Murong Qingcheng did not say anything. Her head disciple had trained the Sky Demon art, and he had mastered the Sky Demon eyes, which allowed him to observe the power of his opponent's qi. It would not be a lie. The head disciple of the Fire Spirit Martial School, the Fire Spirit Prince, had also noticed the difference in Lin Yun. He sneered, "No matter how powerful you are, you will still become my stepping stone." Not far away, the head disciple of the Ice Extreme Martial School was like a block of ice, without any emotion. His white robe was fluttering in the wind, releasing a creepy white qi. Everyone had their own qi fighting against each other. No one was weaker than the other. If it was someone with a powerful soul power, they might even see some sparks flashing in the air. It was a sign that their qi was fighting against each other. However, this kind of situation was soon broken. A young man with godlike eyes was walking with his hands behind his back. Wherever he went, the Yuan qi would follow behind him. He was like a natural king, with his qi looking down on the whole world. His qi was even more powerful than Lin Yun's. Zikong Sheng. On the plain, someone yelled with a low voice, "You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."